Caught my wife cheating with her boss in our bed, so I hired his ex-wife's ruthless divorce attorney. Hey Reddit. I never thought I'd be the one typing this out. I always read these kinds of posts with a raised eyebrow, thinking, damn, that sucks. But now here I am. And man, this sucks. I'm still not sure whether I want advice or just need to scream into the void, but here goes nothing. Let me start with a little background. I, 35M, have been married to my wife, Jessica, 32F, for 7 years. Together for 10. We met through mutual friends in our mid-20s, and she was the classic cool girl at the time. Gorgeous, quick-witted, always the center of attention at parties. I fell hard. She had a spark, and when she turned it on you, it felt like you were the only man in the world. We built a life together. No kids, just a house in the suburbs, 2 rescue dogs, and the kind of routine you settle into when you think you're on the same page with someone. For the most part, we were solid, or at least I thought we were. Looking back now, I realized the cracks were there. I just didn't want to see them. The first sign? She stopped laughing at my jokes. Sounds dumb, right? But that's where it began. Little things. Fewer kisses before work. Constant phone checking at dinner. Late nights, working on the Dawson account, her boss's name, ironically. She started dressing up more for the office. Heels, lipstick, even perfume, which she'd practically given up on years ago because she said she was too tired for all that. I chalked it up to stress. She'd recently gotten promoted, and I thought maybe the pressure was just getting to her. I'd even been proud. Told her how amazing she was, how lucky they were to have her leading a team. What a joke. It all exploded one Sunday morning when I found an earring under our bed. One I didn't recognize. Jessica never wore that style. It was gaudy, bright blue. Totally not her. I asked her about it. She shrugged and said it was probably from her friend Haley who stayed over a few months ago. Haley is a redhead. This earring had a long strand of black hair tangled in it. Still, I let it go. I wanted to believe her. That's the part that makes me hate myself the most. How much I wanted to believe her lies. But the seed was planted. I started noticing more. A half-full wine glass on the kitchen counter when I got home from a late shift. She said she didn't drink that night. My cologne bottle running low faster than usual. Jessica never wears it, but it smelled faintly like it on our sheets. She even claimed our thermostat was acting up when I questioned why the bedroom was suddenly freezing cold on a Wednesday afternoon while I was working from home. Then I did what no one ever wants to admit they did. I checked the home security cameras. I'd installed them myself a few years ago, more for the dogs than for security. One in the hallway, one facing the front door, and one pointing toward the backyard. And there he was, her boss, Jason F*********ing Whitmore, walking out our front door at 9:47 a.m. on a Thursday. I stared at the footage for what felt like an hour. Rewound it. Watched him arrive at 7:12 a.m. She didn't leave for work until after 10. I felt sick. And then, like a goddamn cliche, I went upstairs and smelled our bed. It smelled like him. His cologne. The same scent I'd teased her about weeks ago because I thought it reminded me of hotel lobbies. It was in our sheets. Our pillows. Our room. I didn't even cry. I just sat there. Still. Numb. The kind of stillness that comes when your whole world goes quiet. After seeing the footage, I didn't confront her right away. I needed time to think, to breathe, to make sure I wasn't about to do something stupid. I'm not the yelling type. I don't smash dishes or punch walls. I wanted answers, not broken furniture. So I played dumb for a few days. I kissed her goodbye like normal. Asked about her day. Let her lie to my face like it didn't burn every cell in my body. I watched her text on the couch, smiling at her phone, telling me it was just her assistant when I asked. She even initiated sex that weekend, for the first time in over a month. And I let her. I let her crawl on top of me and pretend like nothing was wrong, all while imagining Jason's hands on her body. But inside, I was boiling. So I set the trap. The following Thursday, I told her I'd picked up a double shift at work and wouldn't be home until after midnight. Then I parked my car 2 streets over and waited. I sat in the freezing cold with a lukewarm gas station coffee and watched our front door like I was on a stakeout. And at exactly 7:06 p.m., a black BMW pulled into our driveway. Whitmore. He walked in like he owned the place. No hesitation. Didn't even knock. I waited 20 minutes, then quietly unlocked the door and stepped inside. I didn't make a sound. It was surreal. Hearing her giggle. My wife, giggle like a teenager. "Shoo, you're so bad," she said. They were in our bed. Our F asterisk 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 ing bed. I'll spare you the graphic detail, but let's just say it was enough to make me want to bleach my eyeballs. I didn't even need to go further into the room. I snapped a few photos with my phone, enough to capture their faces and the fact that they were very much in the act. Then I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream. I didn't even breathe until I got back to my car. I drove around for 2 hours. Ended up in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner, just staring into space while some teenager tried to hand me a menu. When I got home, she was already in bed, pretending to be asleep. There was a faint whiff of her lavender shower gel in the air. She'd scrubbed herself clean like that would erase it. I sat on the edge of the bed and asked, "Rough day at work?" She mumbled, "Yeah, long one." I nodded. And then I said, "You forgot to delete the camera footage, by the way." She went stiff. Didn't say a word. I stood up and walked to the doorway, turning back just before leaving the room. I hope it was worth it. She followed me downstairs about 10 minutes later, still in her robe, makeup smudged, looking like a scared little girl. And I'll admit, for a split second, I thought maybe she'd own up to it. Come clean, cry, apologize, beg. Something real. Nope, Jessica's first words? "You're being paranoid." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe she went that route. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "I watched him walk into our house. I have it on video. I saw him leave. I saw you. I heard you." And what does she do? She breaks down crying, like full-on soap opera sobbing, and says, "I didn't mean for it to happen." Oh, okay. That makes it fine, right? You just slipped and fell into his lap? I asked her how long it had been going on. She said, "A couple weeks." Lie. I later found out from texts on an old iPad she forgot to log out of, rookie mistake, that it had been at least 6 months. I found messages like, "Miss our little lunch breaks face-blowing kiss. Still thinking about Friday. You were incredible. I can't stop picturing you in that red set. Next time, no panties, deal?" Those weren't "a couple weeks" texts. That was a full-on workplace relationship. When I showed her the screenshots, she flipped the script again. Now it was my fault. "You've been distant. You don't appreciate me." I felt invisible. I didn't even know if you loved me anymore. That last one hit me hard. Because the truth is, I did. I do. Or at least I did up until the moment she made our bed a punchline. She kept going, crying harder, now on the kitchen floor like some Oscar contender. "He made me feel special," she said. I didn't say a word. I just watched her unravel. And somewhere deep inside, I felt myself detach. Something broke in me that night. I told her I wanted a divorce. And her face? It was like I had slapped her. Suddenly, she went from broken-hearted mistress to raging banshee. Accused me of throwing away our marriage over one mistake. One mistake. She started screaming that I was being dramatic, that I was overreacting, that couples go through worse and recover. She even tried to twist it into my infidelity because I checked the cameras without telling her. I swear, I thought I was in a bad Lifetime movie. I said, "You cheated. In our house. With your boss. In our bed." That's not a mistake. That's AF asterisk 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 ing campaign. She didn't like that. She stormed upstairs, slammed the door, and locked herself in the bedroom that, as far as I'm concerned, was now hers. The day after the confrontation, I called in sick to work. I couldn't face anyone. Hell, I could barely face myself. My head felt like it had a swarm of bees living inside it. No sleep. No appetite. Just betrayal, humiliation, and a deep, guttural rage that I kept having to choke down before it swallowed me whole. Jessica didn't come out of the bedroom all morning. When she did, it was like nothing had happened. She was in yoga pants, sipping coffee, scrolling through her phone like she wasn't an actual walking, talking disaster movie. She casually asked if I wanted to talk later, and I swear to God, I saw red. Talk? Talk about what? About how she spread her legs for the same guy who signs her checks. I didn't answer. I just grabbed my jacket and left. I needed air. I needed someone to talk to who wasn't her. I ended up calling my buddy Marcus. We've been close since college. I hadn't told him anything yet, but the second he picked up and heard my voice, he said, "Where are you? I'll meet you." He didn't even ask for an explanation. That's the kind of guy he is. We met at this dive bar halfway between our places. I told him everything, every sickening detail, and he just sat there, taking it all in, his knuckles white around his beer glass. After a long silence, he goes, "You know Jason Whitmore's divorced, right?" I blinked. No, I didn't. I thought he was married with 2 kids. Marcus smirked. Exactly. Was. You ever hear about how messy his divorce was? I shook my head. He leaned in and said, his ex-wife cleaned him out. I mean cleaned him out. Got the house, the cars, alimony, everything. Word is she hired some pit bull of a lawyer who made his life a living hell. And that's when it clicked. Suddenly, I wasn't just the betrayed husband. I was a man with a mission. Do you know her name? I asked. Marcus grinned and pulled out his phone. By that evening, I had her name, Catherine Hale. A divorce attorney known for chewing on men like Jason Whitmore and spitting out their bones. Apparently, she specialized in cases where there was a power imbalance, boss/subordinate, financial coercion, emotional abuse. Her rep? Ruthless. Brilliant. Expensive as hell. Worth it. I called her office the next morning and left a message. She called me back herself by lunchtime. I told her the basics, and her first question was, did he sleep with your wife while they were still employed together? Yeah. He's her direct manager. There was a pause, then a very satisfied hum. Oh, Mr. Bryant, she said, you're going to love working with me. Meeting with Catherine Hale was like walking into a courtroom drama with a secret weapon. Her office was all sharp lines, clean leather, and shelves of legal books I'm convinced she could recite backwards. But it was her energy that got me, like she thrived on this kind of betrayal. I sat across from her and laid everything out, Jessica's affair, the videos, the texts, the fact that she was screwing her boss in the house I bought. She took notes calmly, her mouth twitching at the more humiliating details like I'd handed her a loaded gun. Then she said, we're not just divorcing your wife, we're making him regret ever unzipping his pants. Apparently, workplace affairs between managers and subordinates, especially with evidence, can cause all kinds of legal fallout. Hostile work environment claims. Wrongful termination suits if Jessica gets fired and tries to pull the victim card. Reputation damage. And the best part? Whitmore had an airtight morality clause in his contract. Catherine already knew because, of course she did. The man's ex-wife left breadcrumbs, and Catherine made a career out of turning those into wrecking balls. She drafted a letter of intent to litigate to both Whitmore and Jessica, warning them of potential legal action pending civil review, including damage to reputation, emotional distress, marital destruction due to workplace misconduct, etc. It was like watching someone prep a nuclear bomb with a smile. That night, I went home with a new sense of clarity and found Jessica sobbing on the floor of the living room, clutching a framed photo from our honeymoon. I wish I could say it moved me. Instead, all I could think about was how fake it looked. Like she'd watched a sad movie, then copied the scene for effect. She said things like, I made a mistake, and we can come back from this. And I just said, you've got until Friday to find another place to live. She blinked, stunned. You're kicking me out? This is my home too. I said, yeah. Just like Jason's D***K is yours too, apparently. Not proud of that line, but damn it, it shut her up. She screamed, called me heartless, said I was throwing everything away over one stupid thing. But here's the thing, cheating isn't one stupid thing. It's a whole series of choices, lies, disrespect. And when you do it in our bed, under my roof, while telling me you love me, that's not a mistake. That's a campaign of betrayal. She went upstairs, slammed the door, and left it locked again for hours. I stayed downstairs. Couldn't even bring myself to go to sleep. Around 2 a.m., I walked up quietly to grab my phone charger and found the bathroom door wide open. My toothbrush was in the toilet. She didn't even try to hide it. I stared at it for a second, then laughed. Full manic laugh. Because this, the petty, juvenile, high school crap, this was who I married. And somehow, that made the pain feel a little lighter. So I kicked her out on Friday, just like I said I would. She went to stay with her sister, apparently. Took one suitcase and her laptop. Left behind her wedding ring on the kitchen counter like it was supposed to mean something. As if she was making a statement. Like I was the one walking away from the marriage. That weekend, the social circle exploded. I started getting texts from friends, people I hadn't heard from in months, saying crap like, hey man, I heard things are rough. Maybe don't make this public yet. Relationships are complicated. Cheating doesn't have to mean the end. Jessica's hurting too, you know. Maybe you should talk before making rash decisions. Rash decisions? She banged her boss in our bed. That's not complicated. That's scorched earth. Turns out, Jessica was already running PR, telling people we'd grown apart, that I was cold, that she made a mistake and was trying to repair things, but I refused to talk. Oh, and the best part? She claimed I was emotionally abusive. That one hit hard. Not because it was true, it wasn't, but because it could sound true. I'm quiet. I keep to myself. I don't cry in public. It's so easy to paint the reserved guy as the villain. I sent out a group message. Just screenshots. No commentary. Just the video still of Jason leaving our house at 9:47 a.m., followed by a couple of the spicy texts between him and Jessica. Suddenly, radio silence. A few people texted back apologies. One or two called to say they had no idea. One guy even offered to help me move stuff out if I needed it. But the damage was done. I realized something in that moment. When a relationship ends because of infidelity, it's not just your partner you lose. It's the mutuals, the couples, the dinner party group. It's a social divorce on top of the emotional one. Anyway, about a week after Catherine sent her letter, Jason Whitmore finally responded. Not directly, of course. He's too much of a coward for that. His company's legal team sent a polite but panicked email requesting an opportunity for private mediation before legal escalation. Translation: he's scared less of going to court. Catherine called me immediately. She was thrilled. Apparently this was faster than expected. She told me to sit tight, let her do the talking, and not to respond directly to Jessica, Jason, or anyone from his company. She also warned me, brace yourself. When people like this feel cornered, they start getting desperate. She wasn't wrong. That night, I got a message on an old group chat from Jessica's coworker, someone I barely knew. She said, I know this is out of line, but I thought you should know, the affair didn't start 6 months ago. I asked, how long then? She replied, at least a year and a half. Maybe more. They used to leave company retreats early and book separate rooms. A year and a half. That meant birthdays. Our anniversary. The camping trip where she said she had food poisoning and stayed behind. All lies. I stared at my phone for a long time after that. Not crying. Not angry. Just hollow. Because it hit me. She didn't just cheat. She built a second life. 2 weeks after she left, Catherine handed me the finalized divorce papers. Clean, brutal, and legally ironclad. She drafted them to hit where it would hurt most: finances, property division, and reputation. She even included a clause about marital waste, since Jessica used shared resources to carry on her affair. That included a weekend conference in Miami she swore was work-related, but actually ended up being a romantic getaway. Receipts and hotel charges don't lie. Catherine sent them directly to Jessica's temporary address. No warning, no softening the blow. Jessica called me that night, number blocked. I answered out of pure curiosity. Her voice was trembling, but not with sadness, with rage. You really hired that psycho lawyer? You're trying to ruin me. I stayed quiet. You can't just throw away 10 years because of one mistake, Ethan. I was lonely. You pushed me away. I said. I threw away nothing. You lit it on fire and danced around the ashes. Click. That was the last time we spoke directly. Everything after that went through lawyers. And Whitmore. Oh, he started to sweat. Catherine forwarded me an email from his company's in-house counsel. They were interested in resolving the matter amicably and willing to discuss a severance package to keep things from going public. Turns out, he hadn't disclosed the affair to HR, and that's a major problem when you're an executive with a morality clause and stock options. One public incident, and he could lose everything. Meanwhile, Jessica tried to cover her tracks. She suddenly wanted to talk. Not to reconcile, but to clear the air and divide assets without dragging it into court. Which was rich, considering she dragged my heart through a wood chipper without blinking. She proposed we sell the house and split the profits. I countered. She can walk away with the contents of her closet, and I keep the house and everything else. She called me a monster. Then, get this, she started playing the pregnancy card. Yep. Jessica, who once said, I'd rather adopt a lizard than raise a kid, now claimed she might be pregnant and needed time to figure things out. But she wouldn't show a test. Wouldn't confirm a doctor's appointment. Wouldn't give a straight answer. Just vague texts like, you'd really leave if I was carrying your child? I sent her lawyer an email requesting a paternity test before any negotiations moved forward. Jessica dropped the pregnancy story 24 hours later. Then she made her biggest mistake. She emailed me directly, despite both our lawyers saying all communication had to be legal only. She wrote this long, rambling message trying to explain everything from her point of view. But near the end, she included a line that changed everything. I know Jason told me you'd never find out. He said you were too naive and distracted to notice anything. That's why we got careless. That sentence right there? That was collusion. Catherine nearly screamed when she read it. That's not just betrayal. That's evidence of coordinated deception and intent. It gave us the leverage we needed to file an intentional infliction of emotional distress claim and push the ethics board at Whitmore's firm to open a full investigation. We weren't just taking him down financially. We were taking him down professionally. A week after Jessica's "oops, I might be pregnant" stunt failed, the fallout began. Catherine filed the emotional distress claim like a bomb with a timer. The legal version of, "Oh, you thought this was over? How adorable." Jason Whitmore's company, some boutique marketing firm with an inflated sense of self, panicked hard. Turns out, they just landed a major client with strict corporate ethics policies. Word gets out that their exec is banging his subordinate on company retreats. That's stock tanking stuff. I didn't even have to push it. Catherine simply CC'd the legal department with a "this is a courtesy before we go public" kind of message. The next day, Jason was put on administrative leave, pending internal review. 2 days after that, he resigned to spend more time with his family. Translation: he was thrown under the bus to save the company. But here's the part one didn't expect. Jessica? She got fired too. Apparently, once HR opened up the books, they found she'd booked a lot of travel expenses that didn't exactly line up with real conferences. Fake invoices, personal charges on the corporate card, even an Airbnb receipt for a place labeled J&J Love Nest. Classy. So now she's jobless, divorced in progress, and, according to one mutual friend still talking to her, so stressed she can't eat. I'll be honest, I didn't feel good about that. I felt great. Not because I wanted her to suffer, but because for once, actions had consequences. And not just for me. Still, Jessica wasn't done being messy. She tried calling my mom. Yeah, my mother. She left a voicemail, practically sobbing, about how she never meant to hurt me, how she missed the family, and how Ethan won't even let me explain. My mom called me right after and just said, "You want me to block this little trollop, or should I tell her off first?" God, I love that woman. But the true cherry on top, I got a LinkedIn notification one night. Jason Whitmore's profile had been updated. New job title, freelance brand consultant, which is code for, no one will hire me right now because I'm radioactive. And remember that group of mutual friends that turned cold on me? One by one, they started reaching out again. Apologies. Excuses. We didn't know it was that bad, blah, blah, blah. I didn't respond to any of them. Not out of pettiness, but because once someone doubts your truth when you're bleeding, they don't get a seat at your table when you're healing. As for Jessica, she sent one final message. A long-winded, pseudo-spiritual monologue about how this was a sign from the universe that she needed to rediscover her inner goddess and heal her wounded feminine. No apology. No real remorse. Just a yoga-flavored excuse for blowing up 2 lives for mediocre sex with her boss. I didn't reply. Catherine and I wrapped up our case filing shortly after. We still had to go through mediation, divide assets, and all that dry stuff. But the war? The real war? It was over. And I'd won. By the time we got to mediation, the whole thing felt like the tail end of a horror movie. You know the part where the killer's been shot, stabbed, buried under a house collapse, but somehow still manages to crawl back for one last scare? That was Jessica. Mediation was held in a neutral office building with bad coffee and those fake plants that collect dust in the corners. Catherine sat next to me, calm and unshakable, flipping through documents like they were menus. Across from us sat Jessica and her lawyer, a doughy guy who looked like he practiced divorce law part-time and sold real estate on weekends. Jessica looked rough, hollow under the eyes, hair tied back like she hadn't bothered to wash it. She still tried to give me that soft smile she used to use when she wanted something from me. Didn't land. Catherine kicked things off with a clear list of demands. I keep the house. I keep the car, fully paid off, in my name. She gets none of my 401k. She walks away with her personal items only, clothes, accessories, a few keepsakes. No alimony. And if she contests, we go to court, and Jason Whitmore gets subpoenaed. Her lawyer tried to act offended, said it was punitive. Catherine leaned in and said, "No, it's generous. Given the circumstances, she's lucky we're not seeking damages from both of them." Boom. They called for a break. Jessica followed me to the hallway. She looked at me, arms crossed, and said, "You're really going to act like you didn't do anything wrong in this marriage?" That's when it hit me. She still didn't get it. Not even after losing her job, her reputation, and her marriage. In her mind, she was still the one being wronged. I said, I made mistakes, sure. I trusted the wrong person. Slept next to a liar. That one's on me. She looked like she wanted to slap me. Instead, she said the one thing that could still hurt. You know, Jason used to say how boring you were. That I looked like a trophy standing next to a loser in khakis. And he was right. Now, listen, I'm not a model. I'm an IT guy with a bad back, a Spotify playlist full of 90s rock, and exactly one pair of fancy shoes. But I was a good husband, a loyal one, and hearing that? That hurt. But I didn't let it show. I just looked at her and said, then go find another winner like him. Let me know how that works out. Went back into mediation, signed the papers, and just like that, 10 years boiled down to signatures and silence. Later that night, I sat on my porch with a drink. The dogs curled up at my feet. The house was quiet. Not empty. Not sad. Just quiet in a way it hadn't been in years. I hadn't realized how much noise Jessica had brought into my life. Not just literal noise, though she never did learn to shut cabinet doors gently, but emotional static. Guilt. Suspicion. Emotional whiplash from the constant highs and lows of loving someone who never loved me back the same way. And for the first time since it all began, I felt free. Not healed. Not over it, but free. The weeks after the mediation were oddly quiet. Too quiet at first. It's strange how grief can sneak up on you, even when you know the person was poison. I'd catch myself setting out 2 coffee mugs in the morning or scrolling through Netflix thinking, oh, she'd like that one, before remembering, no, she wouldn't. She liked being difficult for sport. But the quiet grew on me. The peace was addictive. No lies. No forced affection. No pretending. I started going to the gym again. Joined a hiking group on weekends. Reconnected with old friends who'd quietly stepped back during the mess. One of them, Kevin, invited me to poker night. And for the first time in months, I laughed so hard my stomach hurt. I also started therapy, which I was hesitant about at first, but my therapist, an older guy named Mike who reminded me of a cross between Gandalf and a retired mechanic, helped me put the puzzle pieces together. Turns out, Jessica wasn't my first betrayal. I'd been the safe guy in every relationship. The fallback. The stable one women turned to when they were tired of drama but not ready for maturity. That realization hit hard. But nothing, and I mean nothing, hit harder than running into Jason F***ing Whitmore** at a grocery store of all places. It was maybe 2 months post-divorce. I was grabbing eggs and dog treats, looking halfway decent in a hoodie and jeans, when I turned the corner, and boom, there he was. He looked like S***T. Pale. Hollow-eyed. Wearing a wrinkled polo that might have been expensive once, but now screamed, I'm doing bad. Our eyes met. I expected something. An apology. A smirk. Even a nod. What I got, a flinch. He actually looked afraid. He turned and started walking away, fast. Like I was holding a crowbar instead of a grocery basket. And I should have let him go. I should have taken the high road, walked away with my organic eggs and moral high ground. But I followed him. Cornered him by the self-checkout machines. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't touch him. I just said, how's unemployment treating you? He swallowed hard. Look, man, I didn't mean for it to go that far. Yeah, you and her both, I said. You two were a perfect match. All deception, no spine. Then he did something unexpected. He looked genuinely ashamed. Like, real regret, not the fake, performative kind Jessica served with tears. She told me you were cheating on her. That you had a whole second phone. I didn't ask questions. I just believed it. I froze. What? Yeah. She said you were distant, cold. Said you had someone on the side and were just using her for stability. I couldn't speak. This woman had painted me as the cheater, while sneaking her boss in and out of my house. That detail shattered me more than I care to admit. Because it meant the betrayal wasn't just physical. It was a smear campaign behind my back while I was still doing everything I could to make her happy. I just looked at him and said, you believed her because you wanted to. You didn't care if it was true. Then I left. That night, I sat in my car for almost an hour in the driveway. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just sat there with that awful weight pressing down on my chest, because I realized I was grieving something that never actually existed. Not the Jessica I married. Just the version I thought I married. After the run-in with Jason, I spiraled for a few days. Not back into despair, but into this numb, haunted kind of fog. I kept thinking about all the little things Jessica said during our marriage that I hadn't questioned at the time. You're so lucky to have me. Not everyone's cut out for commitment. You'd never survive out there without me. It wasn't love. It was grooming, subtle, ego-cutting mind games dressed up as banter. And then there was the gaslighting. The way she'd turn things around, make me question reality. Make me apologize when she was the one lying. She'd joke about how sensitive I was, how I took everything so seriously. That was her way of making sure if anything ever came to light, people would already think I was the emotional one. I was unraveling truths I didn't even know were lies. Then something unexpected happened. I got a message on Facebook from Jessica's cousin, Rachel. We weren't close. I'd seen her at weddings, holidays, the usual. She was blunt, sarcastic, and kind of a wild card, so I wasn't sure what I was walking into when I opened it. But this is what it said. Hey, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I need you to know something. You didn't deserve what she did to you. I tried to talk to her. I told her to stop months before it blew up. She told me to mind my own business. I'm sorry I didn't push harder. I always thought you were too good for her anyway. That message? It cracked something open. Not because it changed anything, nothing could undo what she did, but because for once, someone saw it. Someone acknowledged the truth, without caveats or conditions. I wrote back, thank you. That means more than you know. She replied, don't let this turn you bitter. You're still one of the good ones. Stay that way. I sat with that for a long time. Because bitterness? It's easy. Comfortable, even. It feels like armor. But it rots you from the inside. So I made a decision that day. I was done looking back. I deleted every picture of us from my phone. Not out of anger, but because I didn't want ghosts living in my pocket. I boxed up the wedding album, her old birthday cards, anything that smelled like nostalgia or pity, and dropped it all off at a donation center. I started sleeping better. I stopped checking her socials. Yeah, I had been, don't judge. I even started dating again. Slowly. Nothing serious. Just putting myself out there. Seeing what it felt like to be seen again. Not as someone's emotional punching bag, but as a person worth choosing. I was still scared, sure. Every time a woman took a little too long to text back, or seemed off, I'd feel that old panic rise up like smoke from a memory, but I didn't let it stop me. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't carrying her anymore. I was carrying me. So, life was finally starting to feel normal, or at least a new version of it. I'd stopped reacting to every notification like it was a potential landmine, started reading again, and even tried one of those weird hot yoga classes my buddy swore by. I sweated out all my regrets and nearly passed out, but that's beside the point. And then one afternoon, out of nowhere, I got a LinkedIn message. Not from a recruiter. Not from an old coworker. From Whitmore's ex-wife. Yeah, that ex-wife. The same woman who'd taken him to court years ago and walked away with everything but his last name. Her message was short and strangely polite. Hi, Ethan. I hope this isn't intrusive, but Catherine Hale mentioned your name during a conversation about, let's just say, mutual misfortunes. I wanted to reach out and say I'm sorry you had to go through it. I know what it's like. I stared at that message for a good 10 minutes. Catherine had warned me they were still connected, professionally. I guess you build a tight bond with the person who helped you dismantle your ex's life like a Lego set. Anyway, I responded, cautiously, appreciate the message. Didn't expect it, but yeah, it was brutal. She replied almost immediately, I believe you. And for what it's worth, Jessica tried to flirt with my new husband at a fundraiser last year. I had no idea you two were even married at the time. I just knew she gave me bad vibes. Found out later who she was and nearly choked on my wine. I let out a short, stunned laugh. Jessica was still doing it. Still torching bridges. Still operating with no map. Just a box of matches and an ego. Whitmore's ex, her name's Alyssa, by the way, ended up calling me. We talked for nearly an hour. It was like therapy, except the therapist also wanted to throat punch the same people I did. She told me stories about Jason, how he manipulated everyone, including her, how he'd gaslight her into thinking she was overreacting, and how he once told her she should be grateful he even came home at night. Sound familiar? She said something that stuck with me. Men like him, and women like her, they don't cheat because they're unhappy. They cheat because they think they're invincible. She also confirmed something I suspected. Jason had affairs before Jessica. During his first marriage. Multiple. And here's the kicker, Jessica wasn't even his only mistress while we were married. Apparently, he had some 24-year-old assistant he was flying out to client meetings in Chicago. Alyssa found out through a mutual friend still working at the firm. Once he resigned, everything came out. Like rats running from a sinking ship. I should have been furious. But I wasn't. I was relieved. Weirdly. Like the truth, as ugly as it was, made it easier to let go. I wasn't just the fool who got cheated on. I was one chapter in two narcissists' long history of using people like stepping stones. Alyssa and I kept in touch after that. Not romantically, don't get any Hallmark movie ideas, but like survivors from the same crash site. She even sent me a bottle of whiskey with a note that read, "To freedom and F***ing peace. Drink one for me." Asterisk. I did. So despite everything Jessica did, the cheating, the lies, the emotional napalm, I still had one of her things. It was her grandmother's locket. I found it wedged in the back of our old hallway drawer during a closet cleanout. The thing had been in her family for generations, and even though part of me wanted to toss it into a river like some symbolic mic drop, I didn't. I just couldn't. Say what you want about closure, but I believe in ending things clean. I didn't want any lingering loose ends. No, you kept my stuff, nonsense 5 years from now. So I reached out. Just a short text. Found your grandmother's locket. Want to arrange a pickup, or should I drop it off somewhere? She responded in under 2 minutes. Can we meet? I'd rather get it directly from you. It's important. I agreed to meet at a neutral public spot, a coffee shop near a park where we used to walk the dogs. I figured it would be a 5-minute handoff, no drama. Big mistake. I got there early, locket in my pocket, iced coffee in hand. I sat outside. She showed up in sunglasses and a leather jacket like she was auditioning for a reboot of Sex and the City, Scorched Earth Edition. She sat down without asking, stared at me for an uncomfortably long time, and then said, "You look good." I gave her a polite nod. "Here's the locket." She took it, held it in her hand for a second, and then whispered, "I still wear my ring sometimes. Is that pathetic?" I blinked. "Jessica, what are we doing here?" She shrugged. "Just talking. No apology. No thank you. Just nostalgia, laced with guilt and ego." I didn't engage. I stood up and said, "Take care of yourself." She reached out and grabbed my hand. "Do you ever think about if things had been different?" I paused, just long enough to see her eyes light up, like she thought I was about to say something tragic and romantic. Then I said, "Yeah, if you loved me half as much as you loved yourself, we might have made it." And I walked away. She didn't follow, didn't call out, just sat there holding the locket like it might unlock the version of her that never existed. And that was the real closure. After that last meeting with Jessica, the locket, the hand grab, the sad attempt at, what if, I finally felt like I'd shut the last door. Not slammed it, not locked it, just gently closed it and walked away. And then real life started happening again. Work picked up. I started mentoring a younger guy on my team who reminded me of myself 10 years ago, awkward, but full of potential. I got promoted. Started sleeping through the night without flinching at 3 a.m. shadows or phantom phone vibrations. I bought new sheets. It sounds small, but if you've ever shared a bed with someone who hurt you, you know exactly how big of a deal that is. The bed had always felt haunted, like every inch of fabric carried whispers of betrayal. New sheets, new mattress, new energy. And then one day, I met someone. Not on an app, not at a bar, at a dog park, of all places. She had a golden retriever named Max who wouldn't stop sniffing my labs, but like he was looking for buried treasure. We ended up laughing about it, then talking, then walking our dogs together. Her name's Lena. She's soft-spoken, kind, but with this dry humor that hits you sideways. She doesn't overshare or interrogate, just exists in this calm, grounded way that I didn't realize I craved. I didn't tell her about Jessica right away. I didn't want to unload the whole saga like emotional luggage on date 2. But eventually, I told her the Cliff Notes version: cheated on, long marriage, brutal divorce. She just nodded and said, "Well, I'm glad you got out." She sounds like someone who mistakes chaos for depth. That line right there, it was like a pressure valve opened in my chest. We've been seeing each other casually. I'm not rushing anything. I'm not looking to replace anyone or prove I'm over the past. I just like who I am around her. We cook together, watch weird documentaries. Our dogs have become best friends. The other night she fell asleep on my couch, Max snoring at her feet, and I looked over at her and realized I wasn't scared anymore. Not of being alone, not of being hurt again. Because I know now, I'll never not survive it. It's been over a year since everything imploded. Jessica, Jason, the locket, the toothbrush in the toilet. Every dark, bitter, humiliating detail. And somehow, I'm good. Not perfect. Not wrapped up in a neat bow. But solid. Steady. Lighter. There were nights I thought I'd never feel normal again. Nights I sat in my car just staring at my steering wheel, wondering how the hell I went from happy husband to betrayed punchline in the span of a Thursday morning. But you come back, bit by bit, choice by choice. So here it is, the big takeaway. The thing I wish someone had told me when I first found that damn earring. It wasn't your fault. Even if you weren't the perfect partner, even if you worked too much, or forgot anniversaries, or didn't always know what to say. People who love you don't lie in your face and screw their boss in your bed. They talk to you. They fight for you. They show up. Cheating isn't a mistake. It's a series of calculated, selfish choices made with full knowledge of the destruction they'll leave behind. If you're in the middle of it, if you've just found out, if you're still wading through the mud, let me tell you what no one else will. You are not weak for staying at first. You are not bitter for finally leaving, and you are not unlovable just because someone else couldn't see your worth. You will love again. You will trust again. But more importantly, you will trust yourself again. If I could go back and talk to the version of me who sat on the edge of the bed, holding that earring and trying not to vomit, I'd say, this is going to hurt like hell. But it's not going to break you. It's going to build you. Because that's what it did. I'm stronger, wiser, more self-aware. I learned boundaries. I learned how to stop explaining myself to people committed to misunderstanding me. And I learned that walking away isn't weakness, it's clarity. So yeah, that's the story. The whole messy, ugly, surprisingly cathartic story. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. Really. Sharing this was like breathing out for the first time in a long time. And if you're going through something similar, you're not alone. You're not crazy. And trust me, this is not where your story ends. It's just where you stop carrying theirs.